Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Jans. I'm the Partner Engagement Manager for the Alberta Mentoring Partnership. So grab your coffee. We hope you had a good lunch. We're ready to share with you a lot of knowledge today on this webinar, all about fundraising and how you can support your quality mentoring program and make sure that it's financially sustainable. This webinar will be recorded, and for the benefit of those of you who are attending live, you can participate by asking questions. So we're going to take a moment now and explain how you can participate in the webinar. Corey Dodge, who's here with me and is the tech administrator, you can reach Corey at any time with questions by emailing mentor.support@albertamentors.com. Corey, how can people ask, or sorry, albertamentors.ca. Corey, how can people ask through the webinar? How can they pose questions?
Yeah, so throughout the webinar, if you want to ask a quick question, you can do so in the chat. That'll go to everybody. Otherwise, you could add a question to the questions box on your bottom right there, and that'll go straight to us, and then we can answer those throughout the webinar. Otherwise, we'll save the questions until the very end.
Awesome. So you should see a background screen right now that has the Corporate Mentoring Program Toolkit. You should also see on your GoToWebinar application, you should see an opportunity to pose questions in the chat box there. So Corey will just send a message saying hello to everyone. You should be able to see it, and we can go from there. So just a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to have a brief presentation today from Danisha, followed by some questions and answers. If you have any tech questions at any time, again, please email Corey, mentor.support@albertamentors.ca. He's the Mr. Fix-It of the webinar and will help you out there if you have any audio or other issues. We'll also be sending out a follow-up email after this presentation with slides, more information, links to the website, and of course we'll have the video available on our YouTube channel so you can share it with your colleagues or other folks. So very quickly, just about the Alberta Mentoring Partnership. As you probably know, Alberta Mentoring Partnership is a partnership of government ministries, government-funded organizations, community agencies, and our goal is to raise the profile of mentoring in Alberta. We want to expand and enhance the mentoring programs that are available to children and youth. We work with you, our partners, to ensure that every child or youth in Alberta who needs a mentor has access to one. If you are a partner of the AMP, we look forward to hearing from you around other challenges, such as fundraising, that you may be facing, so we can support you in expanding and enhancing your mentoring programs. If you're not a partner of the AMP or know other organizations in your community who should be partners of the AMP, please email them to us and help us get in touch. We'd love to reach out to them and help you get your job done and spread the word about mentoring, best practices, how to build capacity and remove barriers so you can focus on the work that you do best for young people. So in that vein, today we're going to be talking about fundraising. But before we get to the fundraising, I just want to remind you about the Corporate Mentoring Toolkit that we have available. We're going to be talking about treasure today, how you can bring more gold to your piggy bank for your agency. But we also want to talk about the gift of time. I recently read that 1 in 5 mentors in the United States actually come from corporate partners. That means staff members who are taking time, paid time from the office, who are going and participating in mentoring organizations. So when you're thinking about fundraising, often people do have money to give, but there's opportunities in terms of time and talent as well too, where sponsors can help out through in-kind donations, the donation of becoming a mentor and encouraging their staff to become mentors, and much more. So we encourage you to think broadly about corporate social responsibility, and we encourage you to look at our Corporate Mentoring Program Toolkit. You'll see there's 2 pieces there. The first piece is for the businesses. That's the piece that you would take and bring to your local bank or a company or agricultural organization or union or any kind of entity who could support a mentoring program. And then the second piece is the piece for you, the mentoring organization. So you'll want to take a look at that and think about how you can find a mentoring champion within the organization as well as within your own group to help be successful. But we know that the reason you're tuning in today is about financial sustainability. And we're very thankful that Danisha dropped in today, who is the Fund Development Manager for Big Brothers Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Edmonton, who's just upstairs for us and is always always sharing fantastic anecdotes and information in the lunchroom about what she's been learning. And I know you're going to want to get out your notepad because Danisha has a ton of knowledge to share with you today. I'm going to embarrass her a little bit, but Danisha is also a mentor. She's one of Edmonton's top 40 under 40. and she's an all-around rock star in the Edmonton community. So if you have a chance when you're in town, do get in touch with her and pick her brain about some of this work. She recently attended the Association for Fundraising Professionals conference in California, and she's going to share with us some of the learnings that she brought back and thinks are most applicable for Albertans. So I read through her notes. They're incredible. She's put together a PowerPoint for us here today. And without further ado, let's Danisha, how are you doing, and how was the conference?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to be able to share my learnings with everybody on the webinar today and anyone who can tune in later on. I always believe that fundraising is a challenging profession, and instead of competing with each other, fundraisers need to support each other and work together to maximize the limited number of dollars that are available in our communities. And regardless of what organization we're working with, the clients that we're supporting, whether they're children, youth, adults, or seniors, they all matter, and they all matter to donors especially. So my presentation today is, I'm hoping, will be vague enough to encompass all organizations, but some of my examples might be specific to Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and children and youth.
Awesome. Well, I think there's a lot of transferability. The floor is yours, and the PowerPoint is yours.
Thank you. So before I start, we mentioned the Association of Fundraising Professionals. I wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out because while I was able to attend the conference in California, I did it because I was sponsored by our local chapter here in Edmonton, and that wouldn't have been possible. I wouldn't have been able to share the learnings I had if it wasn't for them, because it is an international conference. It can be quite costly, and this is an association that is all over the world, but especially in Canada is very prominent, and each region and each city has their own local chapter. And I strongly encourage all fundraisers, whether you're a volunteer fundraiser or you're an ED or working or employed as a fundraiser or fund development manager, to be a member of AFP, because people don't typically finish high school and decide they want to be a fundraiser, so there's not a lot of university programs that has that as a formal program. So AFP is really the leader in professional development. You get to network with other fundraisers in your community. Here in Edmonton, we meet on a monthly basis and go over new fundraising trends. And they are the best place to find job postings if you're interested in the field. So I strongly encourage everybody on the webinar to go to afpnet.org and become a member and click on the Canadian link. And I'll have all sorts of great things for you to look at. So for today's webinar, I've kind of separated it into three major pieces. I'm going to start a little bit with the future of fundraising and what it looks like. And then I'm going to go into donors, events, and a little bit of marketing and telling your story. When we look at donors and events, you'll see that I have 11 tips. It's really going to be like a lightning round for those things. There's 11 tips in each of them. Don't take all 11. It's kind of overwhelming, but pick 2 or 3 that you really like and that you can get started doing today. They're not large things. They're very small, and they're just habits that you need to start putting in your calendar and creating for yourself. And I think that will help you be more successful over the next year and long term as well. We know we're all busy. So we need to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success in the future. So the first thing is the future of fundraising. What does it look like? So everything that I'm sharing with you today I've learned from international experts at the fundraising conference. And they've told us a couple months ago that there's been a shift in the importance placed on the charity versus the donor. Before, it was always about us, the charity. What did we do? What impact did we make? What outcomes did we have? But now that doesn't matter to a donor. It's about focusing on them. What motivates them? Why do they give? What do they care about? Our job as fundraisers is to facilitate their needs and fit them within our context as an agency. Another thing that's really interesting is that revenue is no longer a marker of success for us. Building relationships with donors are. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we do that, but really it's changing our mindset from the big one-time $50,000 donation and start focusing our efforts on those smaller donors that give us $50 a month or a year, and how do we cultivate them so that they're with us for the long term. Donors are testing us, so always keep that in mind. Their first gift to us is going to be small, $10, $20, $50, and it's not because they can't afford more. It's because they want to see how we're going to recognize them for that small donation, and how do we thank them, and how do we steward them before they even consider making a larger gift to us. So we need to focus on those donors and how do we make them more sustainable. And always keep in mind that donors are researching us. It's not us researching them, because like I said, we don't have time as fundraisers to research the hundreds of philanthropic community givers in our various communities, especially millennials now, who are going to be our future givers, our future donors. They're researching us as a charity, and they do that by going to our website, which means we have a lot of power there because we're controlling what they see for the first time. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and how to make your website more appealing to those people at the end of the webinar. So here's what we need to know as a charity. It's not about our mission, it's about the donor. Charities don't campaign, we do. Our friends, our family, our word of mouth is the best strategic fundraising strategy. Donors know what they care about and what they want to achieve. They don't need us telling them that. We just need to help them facilitate their needs. Something that's really helped me since the conference is that I'm thinking that I work for a donor, not for the charity anymore. So it's really about what do the donors need and how do I fit that within what the charity does. So we will start with, I'll just go back to lifetime value, so we know what that is. The lifetime value of a donor is something that we really need to look at. So if you think, as an example, a one-time donation of $50, you're probably losing money on that because it probably cost you more to get that $50 in your time and resources, and it wasn't really worth it. So we really need to look at, stop focusing on one-time donors and let's look at long-term. If a donor gives $50 every year for the next 10 years, you make $500. If you can convert that donor to give $10 a month for the next 10 years, you make $1,200. If they become an annual donor at $1,000, you make $10,000 in 10 years. And then the ultimate nirvana and bonus is definitely a charitable bequest, which could be $50,000 or more. So the point is to stop looking for one large time donation, but focus your efforts on smaller donors, because that's what's going to keep you sustainable in the long term. I always believe the worst thing that you can do is get a $50,000 donation, start a program, and then the next year not have it anymore and have to stop the program. I would much rather be serving a smaller amount of clients over a long term so that they're successful in their future. So let's talk about the donors. So before we go into the 11 tips and tricks, what do we know about donors? So in 2017, we know that they want to make a difference and want to make an impact, particularly millennials. It's more than just cash to them, it's how they want to engage with the agencies. We also know that more donors are giving to fewer charities. They tend to pick their top 2 or 3 and spend their time and resource and financial energies there. We need to target our messages. There's no such thing as going out to the public anymore. A 72-year-old white male donor is very different than a 26-year-old minority woman, and you're going to talk to them in very different ways. Donors want transparency. You need to prove to them that you're using their money wisely. For them, it's like an investment where they want to see the maximum returns. Peer-to-peer fundraising is the fastest growing right now. These are the walks, the causes, and the events where your friends and family are approaching you for $10, $20 for causes that they care about over a specific event. And then the last thing, do you know the number of donors that you have in your agency right now? If you don't, find out today. That's the number one thing. That's the foundation that we're going to build all of these on, because you're going to hold on to them. This webinar is not about going out and prospecting new donors. It's about holding on to the ones that you already have. They're your low-hanging fruit, and you know that they care about your agency because they already gave you money last year. Did you thank them properly? And that's not just a standard tax receipt thank you, but did you tell them how their money was used? Why do donors stop giving? Well, we know 70% of first-time donors never return. 54% of those say they can't afford it, while 36% of them say that other organizations were more deserving of their financial contribution. And why were they more deserving? It's because we didn't thank them. We didn't make them feel special or appreciated. They didn't know where their money was going. And if they're going to be our best ambassadors for their friends and families and they don't feel appreciated, how can we expect them to refer our agency out to people that they know? So here are the first 6 of the 11 things that you can do to engage and recruit donors. Have donors see the work they're supporting. Book tours of your facilities. What I've done is book one day off a month to meet with donors and share stories. Have them meet with the alumni, volunteer, or client. Put this in your calendar right away for the next 6 months or a year. Pick a date that you're free all day and start booking 5, 6, 10, 12, however many donors you can fit into one day, and have them come see you and come to you, and not over the phone, but have them come and see the facility and the work that they're actually impacting. Number 2, letters, notes, and gratitude calls. Do a combination of all of these. And again, this doesn't mean the standard tax receipt thank you that they receive automatically. Make your letters different for each level of donor. Make sure that they're changed every quarter so that they're not receiving the same letter twice if they donate to you multiple times a year. Book off a Friday afternoon every week to call donors that came in the last week. If you're a small organization, this might be a couple people. If you're a larger one, it might be up to 50 people in a week. But either way, you're probably leaving voicemails on a Friday afternoon, so this shouldn't take you more than an hour to do. If you are writing letters, they should be personalized, no digital signature, and they should be signed by board members. And before anyone says that this is a lot of work for board members, depending on how many you have, if you have 10 to 12, every time they have a board meeting, write the cards for them and just have them sign it during the board meeting. They could sign 5 to 10 each, and it'll take them a few seconds. On your letters, always include testimonials and impact statements from your clients, not your agency. For a very long time, I was seeing letters that went out that said, because of you, we were able to support 5,000 kids, or because of you, we were able to do this. It's not about the agency as a whole. It should be about the client and their story. I learned at the conference that a letter should talk about one client or at the most one family. Always begin your thank you letters with a compliment and include a handwritten personal message, whether it's from a board member, from yourself, or from your ED. Number 3 is congratulate donors who receive an award in your community. So what I would do is Google your top donors, companies, or sponsors every month and see if they've been recognized in the community. If they have, send them a note of congratulations and reiterate a thank you for all that they do. For example, Chamber of Commerce in each cities, they have business awards every year. Different magazines, business magazines recognize different corporations and small businesses. Take a read through these magazines or go to the Chamber website and see who they've recognized in the past. These are not only prospects for you because they may be philanthropic, but they may already be donating to you, and you should be able to recognize them or appreciate them for everything else they do in the community. Number 4 is create a gratitude team or a donor thankathon. So ask a board member, ask someone from your own team, a volunteer, a colleague from another department, a parent, an alumni, anyone who has some sort of affiliation to your agency, and give them a list of 5 people to call every month to say thank you. If you want to make it a really fun event, plan a day where you can have all the people in the same room, have pizza, and make it a one-day event where you're all calling donors just to thank them. Number 5 is learn the stories of your clients and share them with your donors. Don't go to your website, which is what I used to do. Go to your website and see what stories your marketing communication department has written about your agency's work, and then just memorize them and share them or regurgitate them to your donors. Actually spend time every month or 2 and volunteer with your own organization so you can see the impact firsthand. You're likely a donor yourself, or at least I hope you are. And engaging and seeing the impact of your own donation is a great story that you can share with others. And number 6, create a sustainable funding committee. Prospecting new donors goes beyond you and your small team. You need networks in terms of your ED, your board, and other leaders in the community. Consider having a sustainable funding committee that meets quarterly or annually and can introduce you to the right people in the community. It's much easier than making cold calls. Number 7 is around if you have an e-newsletter. To have an e-newsletter, a good open rate is 30% of your whole list. So don't spend a lot of time here except just to thank and share the impact of your donation. You don't want to ask for money through a newsletter, especially one that's going out to masses of people. And we know the hardest thing is to get people to open their email, so spend the majority of your time on the subject line. Make it personal, make it about a client or a family. Number 8, and I've said this a couple times already, is go after the donors who give small gifts. People can afford it and are more likely to give long-term if they aren't expected to give a large sum of money right away. Ask for a $20 gift, then report back to them about how their money was spent, and ask if they'd consider doing it on a regular basis, which is automatic, monthly, or annually. Over time, they're going to be your best donors and ambassadors. Number 9, never combine a thank you with an ask. The ask always overpowers the thank you, and you lose all meaning for why you contacted them in the first place. Number 10, focus the bulk of your time on renewal. Forget new prospects right now. Look at the donors that gave to your organization over the last year and get them to give again. Hopefully, again, automatic every month. Then keep going back. You don't need to buy a list from anyone. You already have one. You just have to spend more time looking at that list and contacting those people. And number 11, tell donors that they're great. They love hearing it. You have a customer who is the donor, and you have to tell them that you couldn't solve a problem without them. They're like your superhero. You need to deliver the gift of joy to them like companies do on products that they sell. So like I said at the beginning, for these 11 tips, pick 2 or 3 that really resonated with you. Put them in your calendar today before you go home. And then over the next year, calculate your donor retention and see if it increases by doing these small things. So now moving on to events. So similar to the last piece, what do we know about events? We know events continue to be the most popular fundraising method, and we do them because we can engage some donors easier through this channel, especially young professionals and millennials who enjoy mingling and networking and being recognized in a group setting. Why do they come? Well, there's 5 reasons why they come. Philanthropy, that warm glow or associated warm glow. Prestige, they can take on that leadership role. Donors can do this at an event. Of course, their relationship with the charity, they're more likely to come if they've been affiliated with you. And the last one, and probably the least helpful for us, is peer pressure. Someone bought a table and they forced you to come and sit at that table. So based on the above that we know, how do we make the experience of a fundraising gala transformational for each of those groups? Again, they're all different. We're not appealing to the public here. We're appealing to different audiences. So it will take different tactics to transform someone who is pressured to be there versus someone who already has a relationship with the charity. So here are the first 7 of the 11 things that we can do at an event to make it transformational. The first is to use visuals, social media, speakers, videos. Do a combination of all of these if you can. Don't use the same messages or formats that you have in the past. The last thing you want people to do is come to your event and say, I've been there and I've done that. The important thing is to share a good emotional story that will encourage social sharing so that they and others will remember the story for the next year at least until you do this event again. Number 2, ask for specific amounts and make tangible asks. The ticket fee got them into the room. Now you need to share with them what our aspirations and our needs are and what we need financially to make that happen. Don't leave it up to them to decide how much to give you. For example, one thing I can share is we have a Lobster Lovers event every year, and one of our asks that are really well is that we share with them it costs us $1 to feed a child a snack or meal a year. So when we're at Lobster Lovers, we ask people to raise their hands to donate $1,000 to feed 1,000 children or 1,000 meals. And that's concrete and that's tangible and things that people can get around, their minds around. Number 3, after the event, send out pictures and a survey right away. Don't wait a week, don't wait 2 weeks. If you can, draft it up the day before the event and auto-send it right after the event ends, within an hour. That way it's top of people's mind. Number 4, create champions to host the event. You'll be running around with the logistics of the event, and your ED and your board chair are going to have their own tasks to do, which I'll talk about later on. So you need other people in the room who are going to be champions and who are going to host new people who are coming to the event, especially those people that were peer pressured into being there. Have those hosts sit at various sections of the room with high prospects or donors with renewal capacity. Number 5, tag donors online. It fulfills 2 purposes. First, they get the prestige to their own networks that they were there supporting a cause. And 2, they feel special because you know who they are and they didn't think that you did. I would assign a volunteer or staff person who is dedicated, that's their sole job, is dedicated to knowing who's in the room and how to tag them after the fact. Number 6, don't share budget numbers at the event. We don't need to know how big your budget is for the agency. What you need to share is aspiration numbers. For example, to serve 1,000 more children, we need to raise $100,000 here tonight. That's what it's all about, and that's what they care about. We don't need to tell them that our budget is $10 million and we've only made $8 million. We need to be able to be inspirational at these events. Number 7, and I've said this before and I've said it, I'll say it again throughout the other ones, is always follow up. The last thing you want is just to have someone come to your event, be inspired for the day or be motivated, and then the next day they forget about it and they never hear from you again. If you can, try to follow up with every single person that was there that night in different ways. Number 8, call the event what it is. It's a fundraising event. It's not a donor recognition event or an appreciation event. People will actually appreciate your transparency and honesty and want to come prepared with a contribution rather than be surprised there. Make it easy for them to give. Use credit card, online, checks, make sure you follow up with them. It's not really about getting the money right there and then, it's about getting their commitment to give later on. Number 9, have donors participate in their own recognition and make them share why they give to others. Again, they're the host. Give them the opportunity to take that leadership position. You can do things like have an activity at a table that moves them in that direction, but be donor-centric. Train your host to ask the right questions about what people care about at their table. At the very least, it will get everybody in the room in the right philanthropic mindset for the rest of the evening when you ask them for money later. Another idea is to have your donors wear ribbons at the event or an active donor button. Again, it shows prestige because they feel good for giving back, but then it allows other people the opportunity to go up to them and ask them why they're wearing that button and what their motivation is to give. Number 10, connect your CEO or ED and also your board chair to the people at the event. This is the time for the CEO to shine. Their sole job at this event should be to build relationships. Have them report back to you on who they talk to and the important conversations that you can follow up with later on. Don't assign the board chair or the CEO to anything else for that night. And number 11, we call this an ask pass. You will have individuals at your event with higher capacities, so don't under-ask for their gift. Instead, say, tonight there will be an opportunity for you to contribute to our agency, and then follow up with them, especially your top prospect, the day after the event, or at least at the week at the most. Ask them what they thought of the event. Ask them how they would like to be involved in the future, and ask them if they can think of anyone that they should invite or that we should invite, and most importantly, thank them for being there. Again, pick 2 or 3 of these and put them in your calendar. Make it a habit, part of your weekly or monthly routine. If you don't have a fundraising event at your agency, there's still things that you can use that you can transfer outside of an event setting. For example, you can tag donors online after you give them a tour of your facilities. You can make concrete asks at any time of the year. And you can connect your CEO or board chair to top prospects for a tea or coffee at your office or a nearby coffee shop. This isn't specific to just a fundraising event. And now the last piece is telling your story. So what do we know? This isn't about telling our agency story. This isn't about saying how many kids we've served or the impact or the outcomes that we've met. Again, we want to make sure this is about being donor-centric. There are a few things we need to do to make sure when donors come looking for us, they don't get deterred. Use social media. Millennials are the future donors, and that's what they use. It'll change in a few years, I'm sure, to something else, but we need to keep up with it now. Using social media not just to share your work, but to recognize existing donors, because they are not only your active donors, but they're also your prospects. Make sure that they can easily read your website on their phones. 60% of emails are read on mobile devices. Are your websites and emails mobile friendly? Make sure that it takes less than 30 seconds for them to find out what they're looking for, or they'll leave. And also make sure for your purposes, and you might be competing with other areas of the agency, but that the donate button or link is at the top and prominent when they're on their phone or on their laptops. Ask yourself the question, do we deliver the gift of joy to our donors within seconds of them coming to our website? If not, you'll lose them. It often takes prospects years to decide who they're going to give to, especially as they consider giving larger sums to fewer agencies. So you need to craft a compelling and urgent story. It's about why do they have to give today and not tomorrow? Again, what problem are they going to solve or won't be solved if they don't give? This also has to be a long-term strategy that's integrated. The more times they're asked in different ways, the more times it'll stick. So it's all about brand awareness. A few things that you should or shouldn't do. Don't over-communicate with your donors electronically. If you're going to communicate with them by list, create a personalized list so they're not part of the mass. Your communication with your donors should be about how great the donor is, so always use the term you. They're not a spectator in your emails, they're your direct contact. Do your research on the donors before you communicate with them. Create a document, a one-pager on each major donor, so that you're actually personalizing your story to them. And you're not the only person at your agency to tell the story. You have clients, you have alumni, and you have colleagues that also do it on a daily basis. So try to formalize that and use it as a potential volunteer opportunity, especially for your clients and alumni, a way for them to give back and be ambassadors. They won't even think of themselves as fundraisers. The first gift you ask for is their attention, the donor's attention. And we know the human brain, their average attention span is 8 seconds. So you have 8 seconds to grab their attention. Use big type. They need emotional gratification right away. Are you delivering that in every donor communication that you have? And make sure that all fundraising copy should sound like someone is talking to them. Do you surprise your readers or do you bore them? Do you give them something new every time? We know that new things triggers a chemical reaction in the brain. Negative emotions are linked to survival and are much stronger. If there are no problems to solve, donors have nothing to do. They are your superhero. So in conclusion, we need to sort of gear away from how most nonprofits talk to how we should be talking, and that's really donor negligent versus donor centric. So an example of donor negligent is, with your help, we did this and we accomplished that. Oh, and by the way, thanks. Donor centric is, with your help, all these amazing things happened. We couldn't have done it without you. Try to avoid the donor negligent in all of your communications. And again, you're not at this alone. You need spokespeople for your organization. Your board members are there to say thank you. Your executive director or CEO is there for big thinking, long-term strategic planning around programs and needs. Your frontline staff who work with your clients are there for the immediate need for designated programs and services. And you as a fundraiser are basically the facilitator of all of them. You're like the wise sage. I think that's all I have today. If there's any questions, let me know.
Absolutely. So at this time, Corey's just going to send a message out in the chat box to remind you where it is on your browser. You can start posing questions. I know I have a few myself. Thank you so much, Danisha. That's awesome. How long have you been an AFP member?
I've been for the last 5 years since I started at the agency. I'm currently sit on the board now, which is fantastic. I'm in charge of the local chapters, cultural and diversity portfolios. So I'm very excited about that. I've only been there for a couple months now, but I think it's definitely worthwhile. And the more people, again, you don't have to be a professional fundraiser. You could be a volunteer fundraiser, but you learn a lot through this chapter that I wouldn't otherwise know.
Wow. And they have also training and other opportunities? They
do.
Too?
So I can speak for the Edmonton chapter. We have monthly sessions, breakfast sessions on different topics that are relevant to us. They have the international conferences. They have Canadian conferences. And again, there's also opportunities, if you can afford it, for sponsorships, for student awards, things like that. So they do have a budget to be able to support fundraisers.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. So I had a question about the idea of local brand versus national brand. I mean, some of the folks listening are from Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies where they have their local agency brand, but they also have a national support. Others are from Boys and Girls Club, other organizations with national sort of tie-ins. How do you, in your fund development, uh, separate or amend your messages around that complexity?
I think it's probably even more complex for our Edmonton agency because we're both, and we report back to both nationals, Boys and Girls Clubs of Canada, and Big Brothers Big Sisters of Canada. And for me personally, I sit on both national fund development working groups, and I think that's been an asset. Again, like I said at the beginning of this, we shouldn't be competing with each other. That's the one thing donors and corporations on the other side is if they're getting a lot of asks from different organizations, especially local versus national, they're going to feel tired and they're going to get frustrated. So we need to, on our end, do the best that we can to collaborate together and look at what are we doing that maybe others are not doing and how do we share best practices. There are a number of agencies across the country on both sides, Boys and Girls Club sides and Big Brothers Big Sisters, who are doing fabulous things and who are experts in different things. So I do my best to learn from them, and we're not everything to everybody, so we need to be able to collaborate and refer out to different people. And again, it's for the best interests of our clients.
Another unique, I think, factor to the nonprofit sector is turnover, and transition is a major, I would say, constant piece that we're dealing with. So what advice would you have to a new executive director who's coming into an agency and they look at the big folder marked fund development? What would you recommend that they do?
Be flexible. Things are always changing. I think things that happened 5 years ago in terms of best fundraising practices have changed and gone 360 today. And again, it's because donors have changed and the economy has changed and things in the environment are not what they were 5 years ago or 10 years ago or even 3 years ago. So we need to adapt. And again, if we have top of mind that our clients are our first priority and we need to do everything that we can. It's really not about fundraising. It's about being ambassadors for our agency and that brand awareness. Because like I said, there might be people thinking of donating to our agency today that won't get to it for another 5 years. So you need to just make sure that you have a good reputation, you're meeting your outcomes, you're reporting back to your donors and funders. That's what they care about, and that's what's going to promote that long-term sustainability.
Corey, we have a question from the internet.
Yeah, we got a couple here. So first, Lil said she was late and was wondering if it's being recorded. Yes, the webinar is being recorded and it will be sent out after we compile it after the webinar. And Robin has a question. Do you have any recommendations to very small charities who don't necessarily have a lot of capacity for fundraising and donor engagement outside of the ED?
Yeah, I think using your alumni and your volunteers is your best source right now. It is tough. I've come from smaller organizations where I've done all of the work. I've done frontline service delivery, I've done the fundraising, I've done everything, and you really need to rely on your board of directors who are all volunteers, relying on people around you who care about the agency. You wouldn't be in existence if you didn't have a core group of people that actually believed in what you did. So reach out to those people. Similar to how everyone's saying that donors won't give unless they're asked, volunteers won't help unless they're asked either.
Do you sometimes find that volunteers are intimidated by asking for money, and how do you recommend they get over that hurdle?
Yeah, I think we should stop saying fundraising for one thing. Yes. No, not you, just in general, and it's something I have to work on too. I think fundraising is the word that really frightens people because nobody really likes asking for money. But again, you're not having to ask for money. You're having to ask for support. You're having to get people engaged in what you're doing. And if you're passionate about the organization that you're working with and care about it, if you were a volunteer, if you're a donor to the organization, look back and think of why do you care so much about where you're working and why are you even donating to the agency? And those are really the messages that you're taking back out there to friends and families. Again, it's not about the agency, it's about you as a donor and what it means to you.
I also, I think that plays very well into your point about the board being your strongest ally in soliciting support and gifts. But that's, for some boards, that's a mindset shift. That they're not there just to move motions and pass minutes, that this is actually
Yeah, and I think more and more I sit on a number of different boards too, and I think one of the criteria in orientation, or even when you're thinking about sitting on a board, should be that you're responsible for raising that brand awareness and raising money at the end of the day through your networks. You're likely been approached to sit on a board because of your networks, amongst your passion and your skills and other things, but it's really your networks that we're hoping to count on. And anyone who sits on the board is not just sitting on the board to be a faceless person. You're there because you bring something to the board. And if you're considering working or helping other organizations, I think you should strongly consider donating to that organization, because then you're not all talk,
Yeah.
but you're also action in a very nice way. I think a lot of, like, every board I sit on, I donate because it helps me to go out and ask my friends and family for money for that organization, because a lot of times the first question I get asked is, do I give back to that organization? And I don't want to say no, because that's the worst answer.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. One of the interesting things I think that you shared, you yourself are a mentor. You, in addition to your board volunteering, all the other work that you do, you take the time to make a difference in the life of a young person. How does your work as a mentor impact your I guess your 9 to 5?
I think it's a big part of it. I think especially the nice thing about being a fundraiser is that it's not a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I think it's intrinsic in your lifestyle. I think that to be able to be that type of person to go out there and be an ambassador for your organization and ask for money or for support at any given time, whether it's evenings, weekends, when you're out at events, you're that face, outside of the ED, you're that face of the organization to potential community members. And to be able to talk the walk type thing. I'm a mentor because I was a little sister growing up, and I know the difference that it made in my life. So that's solely the only reason I'm a mentor. But at the same time, being a mentor has brought so many benefits to me personally, but also to the agency, because now I can go out there to potential donors and say, I'm a mentor, and this is what it has meant for my little sister. And again, it's sharing that tangible story, and it's not about the agency and the number of kids we serve. It's about this particular girl and what it's meant for her to have a role model in her life. That's a story I can share because I'm doing it.
Yeah. How on the I'll ask Corey actually, just to go back to the list, if we have any other questions in the queue before I'm hogging the airspace.
Not at the moment, but if anyone has any last-minute questions, feel free.
Yeah, I guess what were some of the I guess, were there any moments in the conference that sort of gave you a big aha that we need to change or do?
Yeah, a lot of times. I think a lot of the tips, even the ones I shared, I was taking notes, and half the time I was sitting in sessions and I'm like, my God, this is common sense. Like, I should have known to do this, and again, we get busy. We just don't have time to do all of these things, which is why I made it really clear is don't even bother trying to do all 11 things in each section. Just pick the 2 or 3, and similar to what I'm doing. I went to this conference in May, and I can share with you, since I've been back, I've maybe done 2 things that are on that list. And it's going to take time, and you need to prioritize it. But I think when you realize the way the world works and the donors, you don't want to be left behind. So you need to start thinking about these, and you need to change your mindset before you can change your agency's culture. One of the sessions I went to, and I didn't talk about, was how do you change your agency culture to philanthropic culture? And that was really important and interesting, because everybody is busy in your agency doing their own work. But unless you can change your mindset and make this a priority, how can you expect other people to make fundraising a priority in your agency? Yeah,
I feel like I could watch your presentation again 6 months from now and be reminded. It's sort of like I mean, there's a guy who says, I think his name is Derek Sivers. He says, if more information was the answer, we'd all be billionaires with 6-pack abs. Like we all, like, we know what we have to do. It's a matter of executing it. So one thing, so as you were talking, that was a major aha for me, was that idea of you have a list. It's the people who have already supported you, and you need to think long term about the people who already are around you and have given. Even if it's $10, they're already a true believer. Yeah. So I imagine, because you are a part of an agency, you have some kind of a contact database system.
We do, yeah.
And is it a CRM or?
It is CRM, donor engaged. So with the Big Brother Big Sister movement, we are piloting in certain regions over the last year a new donor engaged through CRM. So we've been using that, and it's been great. But again, it's a matter whether you're using Excel as a small agency or you're using an actual data management system. It really doesn't matter as long as you have that person's name, contact information, and how much they gave in the last year. That's all that really matters in terms of your data. But again, that was one of the things with me. I think I spent the first couple of years of my time here being out there in the community and trying to find new people, and it's exhausting and it's a lot. And especially when you think about the return on investment, if someone's giving you $50 or $100, it's great in that moment, but you might never see them again. And you probably spent more time trying to solicit that amount and spent more time and resources and money doing that than what you got back. So I think what was really like for you an aha moment was, well, I could just go back to the agency and look at my list over the last year and just call them, spend a Friday afternoon every week calling them and thanking them for giving to us in the last year. And that's all it takes, because now you've built a relationship.
I think that was really interesting too, the idea that somebody might have given 5 years ago, but then if they've stopped, we need to call them and ask why, and to thank them and let them know, maybe for some reason there was a staff change or they didn't get contacted.
Yeah. I think the nonprofit sector is very forgiving. I think donors and community members who give to us are very forgiving because they know that we're short-staffed and overworked. So mistakes will be made, and I think we just own up to that. It's always going to happen. I've made tons of mistakes, and I'll continue to. But I think as long as you own up to that and you can go back, and for me, I've been going back, starting the most recent and going back 5 years. And my conversation with them is going to be, I'm sorry, probably most of the time, for not following up, because there's no donor that's ever going to come to you and ask why you didn't ask them for more money.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Do you, I was going to ask, I know even this week you were taking donors on tours.
Yeah.
Is there a specific format or what do you find is most effective for a mentoring program in particular, where a lot of our work is about one-on-one relationships?
It is. I would connect to your alumni. People have been through your mentorship program. I was a little sister, and now I'm a mentor. So connect with your volunteers and people who've been alumni of your program, because they're your best assets. You don't want to be the fund development coordinator or manager that goes and meets with someone and shares other people's stories. You want to be able to be that facilitator, that sage that's putting two people in a room together so that they can share their own stories. And I think, at least for mentoring organizations, because it's not housed in one place, that's the asset that we bring, is have a child, have a parent, have a volunteer come out and share their story with individual donors or a small group of donors. It doesn't have to be them presenting at a gala. It could just be a small coffee. And I think that's what really impacts. And that's what we did this week. Is I did an open house, the donor appreciation tour, at one of our clubs, and people could come anytime between 9 and 4. I made myself available to be here all day. Some people told me what time they were coming, others didn't, so it was a surprise. And I engaged with my club coordinator, and he took the day, and there was kids in the club, which is fantastic, because it's always better to give a tour of a club that has kids than doesn't have kids, because it's not as fun. But each of those donors that came through, some cried, some were so impacted, and they were so appreciative of having the invitation to be there. And it's not something we've done before. And I think, and again, it took me a couple months after this conference to put it together, but the difference that it made, and I'm 100% sure all of those donors will come back now.
Yeah, wow. Well, that's great to hear. And finally, I think one other takeaway I had was the idea about there is no donor. I know some of our mentors are in homogenous rural communities that have been multi-generational families, and they know who's who. Other communities, we have new Canadians who have just arrived in a matter of years. How in particular, you said you're on a diversity committee, so it sounds like that's being there's a greater recognition of that. But how do we culturally need to adapt to think about diversity?
Well, I think that goes back to the question of, again, moving away from financial and fundraising and talking about resource development, because especially newcomers and immigrants may not have the cash contribution that they could give, but it's not that they don't want to. So I think we need to look at what do they have that they can give, whether it's time or resources. And I know you mentioned at the beginning that it's not just about money. We can't function as a mentoring organization without our volunteers. So we need people to give time, and I think there are very creative ways of doing that. It doesn't have to be a you're a big brother or big sister and you have to be committed for at least a year, and this you have to spend an hour a week or whatever it is, or a couple hours every other week with a little. There are different ways of volunteering, and everybody has skills that they can bring to an organization. And I've been able to benefit from volunteers in our community and students who just don't have that long-term commitment but want to work on a 3-month project. And again, it's taking things off my task list to do because there's a volunteer here that's willing to do it for me and they have the expertise. So it's really being flexible about maybe it's more skills-based volunteering than time-based, and maybe that's what we need to start thinking about, that shift.
Yeah, no, great points. Corey, I'll look to the list one more time. Are there any other outstanding questions?
Nothing at the moment.
Awesome. Then I guess finally, the question about sharpening the saw, keeping on top of things. You mentioned the AFP. That sounds like a phenomenal resource. I'm going to go check it out. And it sounds like wherever people are in Alberta, they can benefit from the offerings. Yeah. Are there any other top of desk must-read resources or emails, or as you're having your coffee in the morning, what are there any things that you look to right away?
There's a number of different things. There's storytelling websites. There's Social Return on Investment Chronicles, National Philanthropic Chronicles. But I think that the AFP website that I gave is the hub for all of the other places. I'm never going to remember the names of all of the other articles and publications that come out. But if you go to AFP and you sign up as a member, or even not a member but on their mailing list, they every couple of weeks will send you new resources.
Wow, yeah, sounds like the one-stop shop to start. So thank you so much. Are there any closing words you want to?
No, I think similar to what I said at the beginning, fundraising is never easy, and especially in a changing environment, an economic environment, donors and funders want different things all the time, and you just need to be flexible in what you give them. And again, it's about the donor. It's not about you, and it's not about your agency. So it's really changing your own mindset. And if that's one thing I can leave with everyone is change your mindset to say that you're working for a donor. You're not working for your agency, because I think that'll help you relate and build relationships better with donors, and eventually that'll benefit your agency.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your presentation, for sharing with us, and I think if the listeners are like me, they've got a dozen more things on their to-do list to get on this Friday afternoon. And thank you to Corey Dodge, our tech administrator, for setting all of this up. And thanks to all of you on the call for emailing in your questions and your thoughts. What I've been reading are yours, so that's most helpful. And finally, we're going to survey you after the webinar. We'll be asking for your feedback, as well as what subjects would be most helpful for future webinars. We're looking at doing one in August for all about September recruitment. We know the 2 peak times for mentor recruitment in our movement are in September and January. And as you know, this year we had Mentor Month in January, and in September, there's going to be some coordinated mentor recruitment with partners across Canada, so we're going to be talking about that as well too. So have a wonderful afternoon, and we look forward to hearing from you via email. Thank you.